Major update when it comes to those $2,000 tariff rebate checks, tariff dividend, Trump stimulus, whatever you want to call it. It's a free $2,000 in your bank account. I'm going to let you know exactly what's going on with that, give you some other important updates as well. Before diving into the main content, if you appreciate these tariff rebate check updates and Social Security updates, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. All right, we're gonna go over this, how Trump floats $2,000 tariff rebate checks. Here's what you need to know. So it looks like Trump suggested making direct payments to Americans to cover healthcare costs, as well as sending out a $2,000 check. So those are two separate things that can be used from the tariff revenue. Take a listen to this video here, give us some more updates.
We heard about the Doge dividends. What about tariff dividends? The Treasury collected almost $200 billion in tariff revenue in the fiscal year 2025 that ended in September. Now, President Trump wants to cut Americans a check, writing on Truth Social over the weekend that low and middle income Americans will receive $2,000 payments from the tariff income, and the rest will be used to help pay down the national debt. This is pending a decision from the Supreme Court, which just days ago cast doubt on the tariff legality or the use of power to impose these tariffs. But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says a dividend can come in a lot of different ways.
The $2,000 dividend could come in lots of forms, in lots of ways, George. It could be just the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. So, those are substantial deductions that, are being financed in the tax bill.
I love how the Treasury Secretary spun that little gem. He's like, well, it's not a check. It's just a tax cut that you already got. That was back in July.
Right. But the president does sound like he's talking about a check, if I'm not mistaken from reading that Truth Social. And I think that he realizes that if you go the way of Bessent and try to explain it that way, there are going to be people that aren't touched by that, and they're going to feel like they were left out of it somehow, or that they got the short end of the stick. And so all of a sudden he's coming out with these dividend checks for low and middle income. And I'm thinking to myself, this is really interesting, as we're waiting to hear what the Supreme Court's going to do on this. After we listened to oral arguments last week, I didn't really think that the court was that positive on keeping tariffs in place in the same structure and form that they currently exist in. And then we started having the conversation, well, what would we do with the money? How would you give it back to people? This, to me, sounds like a way for the president to do that before the court tells him what to do, which gives him more power and more control over the narrative as it is unfolding here. I don't know what the Supreme Court will do, how they will rule on this particular case, but I always think President Trump is a few steps ahead of what is going to happen. I think they're already thinking about plans on rewriting these tariffs under different laws to be able to keep them in play if the court says that they're not allowed to. But this, to me, sounded like, you know what, I'm going to go spend this money before they tell me. And he talks about paying down the national debt with what's left over. I think, Taylor, I know you're in this camp. I would have liked to have him take the whole $200 billion and pay down the debt.
So, and that's where I am. Super, super cold take. Everyone hates me for this. I would not be handing out more stimmy checks, especially, let's say you even argue that a tariff is a tax on a consumer, or corporations are passing on the extra cost to the consumers. We've tried this. We did this under Biden. Stimmy season has got to come to an end. I do not want government money that they're taxing to then give to me. $2,000 is tons of money and would absolutely help tons of families. But I don't want to be relying on government for a check. Even though it sounds so tangible, if you get a check in the mail with Trump's name on it, sounds great.
Inflation,
no.
Right?
Inflation.
We're going to just inject all that money. People go out. Charles Payne was talking about it the other day. They spend.
That experiment for stimmies, it doesn't work.
I agree with you 100% on the economics, but for the politics of it, I think for everyday Americans, what happens in Washington is so far removed. This makes it tangible, as you said. It brings it home, and it's a physical representation, or digital, because it comes in direct deposit, that what is happening with the trade wars? Why are we doing it? It's a patriotic refund in some way. But I agree with you 100%. We should not be spending money we collect over here when we have a big debt that we still have to pay down. Every last penny. We've talked about this. You're a saver. You use that to get yourself ahead, you got to do that as a country as well. We need fiscal discipline. But this could point to, you bringing it, we talked about it on the break, is it because the president's afraid of his economic approval rating, right? Affordability, that buzzword, won the Democrats a lot of seats. How do you make life sound like the Republicans are making life more affordable?
You know what the president is doing, which I like, though, is I feel like he's shifting his focus back to the economy. I'm not a huge fan of the $2,000 dividend because we are running a $1.8 trillion deficit just this year. This money that we're getting from tariffs isn't even covering interest on the debt, a point you make all the time, Dagan. But what the president is saying, what he's saying by this is, I know that I've got to deliver results for the American people because that's why they voted for me. He's done a lot of great things abroad. He's done a lot of great things in other policy areas, but he knows his bread and butter is the economy and people feeling that in their wallets. And I think there's a sense that America hasn't quite felt it the way they want to or need to yet. So what I hear Scott Bessent doing, and I agree with you, Dagan, he's massaging the issue in that interview. But I think what he's trying to say is there's juice in place in the Trump agenda that people are going to start feeling as they come into 2026. And I think he's just trying to point people ahead to that. Now, does that work in politics? I don't know. I think people want to feel it now. But I do think I see an administration pivoting back to the economy after doing a lot of good things other places. And that can't come a minute too soon.
Yeah, I agree. But where do you get the most impact, right? Again, I'm not arguing for these. But are you going to get a big impact on paying down the deficit with $200 billion payment? No. Are you going to get a big impact with going to tens of millions of Americans with a $2,000 payment? I think so. And I think this is a calculated political and economic move.
I think they took stock after last Tuesday's election, and they thought about, Brian, policy-wise, how fast the spokes in the wheel are coming together for people. And they thought that a little injection like this would remind folks that, we've got your back until everything kicks in. But I still agree with you, Taylor. I don't like it.
President Trump, as of last week, was 25 points underwater on just inflation. And so there is that we need to turn the talk into the walk. And it's the talk of, the Atlanta GDP now says how much the economy is going to grow in the third quarter. But
3.8%. Yeah.
Right. But people go, but this is the walk.
Ironically, this will lead to more inflation, though, to your point, right?
That's right.
You're trying to fix the problem.
I'm not advocating for it, but I certainly understand President Trump's thinking behind this.
Agreed.
But I always thought that the tariff revenue was brilliant from an economic perspective because it's hidden and it collects revenue from people who pay no federal income tax. Because the bottom half of federal income taxpayers in this country pay virtually nothing. They only pay $63 billion total in all of the federal. They only pay 3% of all federal income taxes. So it's a way to collect some revenue from people who don't pay any federal.
Also an argument you can't make at the Supreme Court, however. If you made that argument, you would lose there.
Yeah, exactly. Don't use the word tax in front of the Supreme Court.
Can't use the word tax.
Yeah, or revenue. Don't use that either.
What are your thoughts there? So they kind of went back and forth. Some are for, some are against, kind of going over some ideas there. What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. And that is all the news that I have for today to hopefully cheer you up a bit. Here's my daughter Belle's tip.
Oh, hi guys, I didn't see you there. Guys, can I tell you a tip of the day because I'm still in South Carolina. I know it looks like in a different place, but let's get over it. Can I tell you the thing that you should really, really actually do when someone's hurt or you're hurt? You should really do something really good and help them out because they're hurt. You can't let a person hurt. Stay there. I know you guys would do such a great thing, even better than that. Like help them up or something. I bet you can too. So that's all the advice that I wanted to give to you today. And also, this is my sister, Kalaya. Say hi. Hi. Bye.
5 states are giving the biggest Social Security increase to millions of Social Security recipients. Is your state on that list? I'll let you know in this video over here. So click that video now and I'll see you in that video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.